I want to take a look at the latest in Israel and Palestine. I'm joined by Danielle Bett, who is Director of Communications at Yachad, a British Jewish organisation that supports a political resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Now, this week, Netanyahu has said that all territory west of the Jordan River should be under Israeli control, thereby appearing to reject the possibility of a two-state solution. I wonder, those people who are acquainted with Middle Eastern politics, how surprised would they be to hear Netanyahu say that?
Not at all. Netanyahu opposing Palestinian statehood isn't new, and this isn't a response to the 7th of October. It has been the long-standing policy of Netanyahu and the Likud under him. This is a prime minister who in 2019 said that anyone who wants to prevent Palestinian statehood should strengthen Hamas and support the strengthening of Hamas. And that has been his policy, strengthening Hamas in order to weaken the PA and subsequently the possibility of a Palestinian state.
Biden seems to think that there is a kind of loophole here where there could be an independent Palestinian state, but it's demilitarized, and through doing so, a two-state solution could be achieved. How feasible do you think that is?
I mean, I do think that a resolution is possible. I think the question is one of will and one of whether he is working with partners on both sides who are actually willing to negotiate. And from the Israeli perspective, I think that Netanyahu's considerations are far more political domestically, rather than being interested in long-term resolutions. He is a man of managing the conflict. That's what he has always done, and he is showing that that's what he intends to continue doing. So I think that what his interests are in any agreement he will make with Biden will be based on how he perceives the political consequences for him here in Israel.
I mean, you mentioned that he's motivated by domestic politics. What is it that you think he was trying to achieve by making what many consider to be quite an inflammatory statement?
Yeah, so again, this isn't a new statement from him, but he's reiterating his commitment to preventing the creation of a Palestinian state. And his recent line has been that he is the only man who will be able to prevent the Palestinian Authority from going into Gaza and from preventing a Palestinian state. He's speaking to his base. He knows that in polls, he's very weak at the moment. Should an election be held anytime soon, if this government were to collapse, he would not manage to form a government. He would lose an election outright. And so he's trying to speak to his base and regain the support of those on the right or those who have voted mainly on security concerns, which is naturally many Israelis, and he's trying to rebuild his image as a man who is committed to security.
I've read some reports that there is likelihood that there's going to be an election imminently in Israel, and if there is, that Netanyahu wouldn't fare very well. Do you think it's safe to say that if Netanyahu and his government were to be replaced by a government that was more moderate, less right-wing, that would be a net benefit for the peace process?
Yes, certainly. I mean, it's very difficult to predict in Israel when an election might be held. There can be once every year and they can be once every 5 years. If this government doesn't manage to hold, and it certainly has a lot of challenges in its way at the moment, then there obviously would be an election and Netanyahu would not win. So we would be looking probably at a kind of centre-right government that would include elements of left-wing parties, also hopefully partnering again with Arab representatives in the Israeli government. And I think that it would give far more space for the international community to work with the Israeli government, with a government that is more committed to long-term resolutions. We don't know who would win, so it's difficult to say, but a government that doesn't have the far right, the extremists that we see like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, would make it far, far easier for the international community to endorse and really get behind that government and indeed work towards long-standing peace.
Danielle Bett, thank you so much. Director of Communications at Yachad, which is a British Jewish organisation that supports a political resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.